Brother, let me take you back. From the moment a girl first blossoms into her teenage years, something begins to shape her psychology. She learns, without anyone even having to tell her, that men will chase her. Compliments flood her inbox. Boys in school stare at her in the hallways. Strangers whistle at her on the street. On social media, her likes skyrocket just for showing her face. And what does this constant stream of attention do? It builds a foundation that tells her, I am valuable because men are willing to give me their energy without me lifting a finger. Her self-worth, her beauty, her confidence, they all get reinforced not by her own actions, but by the endless pursuit of men competing for her attention. Think about it. Every day she's receiving validation. Every day men are orbiting her like satellites. Every day she's reminded that her power lies in how much she can make men bend, chase, and sacrifice just for the privilege of being noticed. This is the soil her psychology grows in. So fast forward a few years, by the time she's an adult, this conditioning has already become her truth. It's ingrained. She doesn't even question it. She expects men to chase. She expects men to prove themselves. She expects men to hand over their energy without hesitation. Now here's the kicker. When she meets a man who doesn't chase, who doesn't blow up her phone, who doesn't jump at every breadcrumb of attention, suddenly her entire reality is shaken. She feels something she doesn't feel often, disarmed. She doesn't know how to process it, because in her world, pursuit equals interest. When that equation breaks, she doesn't know whether to feel insulted, intrigued, or threatened. But one thing is guaranteed, she cannot ignore him. Why? Because the man who doesn't chase forces her to confront a brutal truth, that her beauty alone is not enough to control every man, that her default power, the power of being desired, does not guarantee influence over him. And brother, that realization unsettles her deeply. Let me make this clear. Most men rush. They rush to respond to her text, rush to validate her selfies, rush to prove they're worthy of her time. They fear losing her, they fear silence, they fear rejection. But when you're not like them, when you stand calm, when you don't chase, when you live like your life is already full, you flip the script. You send a message that says, I don't exist in your orbit. I have my own. That's magnetic. That's rare. And that's exactly why she can't handle it. Because here's what happens inside her mind. She has a mental script of how things are supposed to go. She gives a little attention, and the man doubles it back with effort, validation, pursuit. But when you hold steady, it creates a void where her ego expected nourishment, and that void feels like starvation to her. She doesn't know what to do with it. She feels a mix of frustration, curiosity, and desire. Because while she may resent the fact that you don't chase, she's also drawn to it. She respects what she can't control. She desires what she can't predict. And she's fascinated by what she can't easily win. And brother, that's where the game changes. The man who doesn't chase stops being just another guy in the crowd. He becomes the anomaly. And anomalies are always noticed, always remembered, always respected, even if she pretends otherwise. So let me paint the picture. Imagine she's scrolling through her phone. She has 5, 10, maybe even 50 guys sending her messages, liking her pictures, trying to win her over. And then there's you, silent, unmoved, focused on your own world. Who do you think stands out in her mind? The men begging for crumbs, or the man who refuses to beg at all? Here's the truth most men don't want to accept. Chasing a woman makes her feel secure, not attracted. It validates her, but it doesn't inspire her. That's why so many men end up as the nice guy, the safe option, the one she keeps around but never truly respects. Because by chasing, they give her all the comfort she needs, without ever awakening her desire. But when you don't chase, that's when her imagination ignites. She starts asking questions. Why isn't he after me? What's different about him? What does he see in himself that makes him so calm, so detached, so unbothered? And it's that curiosity, that uncertainty, that tension, that's what stirs attraction. Brother, this is the paradox. The less you chase, the more she chases clarity from you. The less validation you give, the more she seeks it. The more silent you remain, the louder her own thoughts become. This is why women can't handle a man who doesn't chase. Because you're not just denying her attention, you're denying her ego the food it has been fed since her teenage years. You're showing her that her beauty, her charm, her power, it doesn't control you. And that's something she's rarely had to face. So here's your first lesson, the foundation of everything that follows in this series. The moment you stop chasing, you change the entire dynamic. You go from being another option to being the exception. You go from being predictable to being unforgettable. And that's where her obsession begins. Now that we've set the stage, her conditioning, her expectation, and why she feels disarmed when you don't play along, let's dive into what actually happens when you stand firm. Because make no mistake, brother, the moment you refuse to chase, she will react. She won't just sit quietly and accept it. She's been trained her whole life to receive pursuit, so when you break that pattern, she feels the ground shift under her feet, and when people lose their footing, they scramble. So let's break down the different reactions you're going to see from her when you hold your frame and refuse to play the chasing game. The first reaction you'll likely notice is a wave of coldness. Suddenly, she's not as warm, not as available, not as sweet. She might take longer to respond to your messages or even ignore you for hours. She may give you short, clipped answers. She may stop initiating altogether. Now, at surface level, you might think she's losing interest. But that's not the case. What she's really doing is testing. She's trying to see if her coldness will provoke you into chasing. Because this is the move that works on most men. When she pulls away, the average man panics. He feels her slipping, so he rushes to close the gap, texting more, calling more, begging for her attention back. But you don't panic. You don't chase. You let her coldness run its course. And that unsettles her even more, because suddenly the tool she always used to regain control is useless against you. Another common reaction, fake indifference. She'll act like she couldn't care less whether you're in her life or not. She may exaggerate her happiness on social media, posting pictures of how unbothered she is, laughing with friends, showing off a life that looks perfect without you. But here's the truth. Real indifference is silent. Real indifference doesn't need to be performed. The very fact that she's going out of her way to put on a show tells you she's affected. She's bothered. She's feeling the void of your attention, and she's trying to cover it up with a mask. And brother, here's the part most men miss. Fake indifference is a compliment. It means you've gotten under her skin. It means she feels your absence. The worst thing you could do in this moment is break your frame and rush back in. Hold steady, and you'll watch her mask eventually crack. This is one of her strongest weapons, provocation. If silence doesn't pull you in, if coldness doesn't rattle you, she'll turn to little games designed to spark your emotions. Maybe she starts posting more revealing pictures online. Maybe she casually drops another man's name into conversation. Maybe she throws in sarcasm or backhanded compliments, little digs to see if you'll snap. The psychology here is simple. Provocation is her way of asking, do I still have power over you? She wants to see if she can make you jealous, angry, or defensive. Because the moment you react, the moment you take the bait, she knows she still has her hooks in you. But when you stay calm, when you don't bite, when you act as though her little games don't even reach your radar, that's when she really starts to spiral. Because now, the weapons she's used on every other man suddenly fail against you. And instead of questioning you, she starts questioning herself. Another move she'll make is artificial distance. Out of nowhere, she disappears. She goes cold. She tells you she's busy. She may even ghost for a while. But don't be fooled. This isn't her moving on. This is her playing the card she thinks will force you to chase. Scarcity. She's trying to trigger that primal fear inside you, the fear of loss. She wants you to feel abandoned so that you'll run back to her. But here's the irony. Her distance only works if you fear losing her. If you don't, if you keep living your life, keep building your mission, keep moving forward, it backfires. Because instead of you feeling the loss, she does. She starts asking herself, why isn't he checking on me? Why isn't he fighting to pull me back? And eventually, her distance collapses in on itself, and she comes running back, usually with an excuse, pretending nothing happened. Now here's where things get interesting. Sometimes when her tricks don't work, she'll flip to the opposite extreme. Suddenly she's sweet again. She's asking how your day is. She's sending little, just checking in messages. She's bringing up old memories. But don't get it twisted. This isn't always genuine affection. Often it's strategy. She feels the shift in power, and she's trying to reset the balance. She knows warmth can be just as manipulative as coldness. And here's your test, brother. Don't mistake sudden sweetness for a change of heart. Watch her consistency over time, because if it's real, it will last. If it's fake, the mask will slip soon enough. Here's what all of these reactions boil down to. When you don't chase, she feels powerless. Not powerless in life, not powerless as a woman, but powerless over you. And that, more than anything, shakes her. Because control over a man's attention is intoxicating. It feeds her ego. It validates her desirability. It reassures her that she is irresistible. But when you withhold that chase, when you refuse to feed her ego, when you show her that you're unmoved, that's when she feels something she rarely feels, exposed. And brother, that exposure is what makes you unforgettable. By now you understand the reactions. You know she'll try coldness, fake indifference, provocation, distance, even sudden sweetness. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about why these tactics matter so much, and why your refusal to chase does something inside her that no man's attention ever could. It shakes her ego to its core. Women are conditioned from a young age to believe that male pursuit is a guarantee, that their beauty is enough to keep men orbiting endlessly. And most of the time, that belief is never challenged. Men line up, they compete, they flatter, they bend. But the moment you step into her life and don't play that role, you create something rare: resistance. And that resistance is like a mirror she doesn't want to look into. Because what does it say when one man out of 100 isn't moved by her charm? What does it say when you don't respond the way every other man does? It forces her to confront a terrifying possibility. Maybe I'm not as irresistible as I thought. Maybe my beauty isn't enough to control him. Maybe I'm not in charge here. That's the beginning of the ego collapse. Here's something most men never realize. Indifference is far more powerful than hate. If she hates you, she's still emotionally tied to you. Hate means she's thinking about you, reacting to you, investing energy in you. But indifference, that's something else entirely. Your calm silence doesn't just withhold attention, it starves her ego. It denies her the one thing she's relied on for validation. And that denial creates a void she doesn't know how to handle. Think about it. If every man before you has fed her ego, and suddenly you don't, it's like cutting off oxygen. And in that suffocation, she starts obsessing, not necessarily about you as a man, but about the power she lost. She's not just drawn to you. She's drawn to the fact that she can't control you. This is where things get chaotic, because when her ego starts starving, her mind doesn't just sit quietly, it spirals. She'll replay old conversations, wondering if she missed something. She'll reread your texts, trying to decode your tone. She'll stalk your social media, checking who you're with, where you're going, how you're living without her. And every time she sees you unbothered, every time she notices your life is moving forward with or without her, the spiral deepens. She'll ask herself, why doesn't he care? What does he have going on that makes him so calm? Who else is giving him attention that I'm not? And here's the kicker. The less you chase, the more she chases clarity. Your silence becomes a puzzle she can't solve. And the human mind craves resolution. When she can't figure you out, you live rent-free in her head. Remember this. Women have a toolkit they use to control most men. Beauty, attention games, silence, jealousy triggers, sweetness, coldness. But when you don't chase, when you don't react, when you stand firm in your indifference, those tools stop working. And when her tools stop working, she starts to unravel. You'll notice contradictions in her behavior. One day she'll guilt trip you, saying, "You've changed. You don't care anymore." The next day she'll flatter you, telling you how different you are from other men. And then she might swing back into coldness, pretending she's done with you. What you're witnessing isn't stability, it's chaos. It's her ego unraveling because she's losing control. Here's the raw truth. The reason she can't handle a man who doesn't chase is because it forces her to face herself. It forces her to confront the possibility that her beauty isn't enough, that her charm doesn't guarantee devotion, that she isn't as irreplaceable as she's been told her whole life. That's a hard pill to swallow, and most women resist it. They'll fight it. They'll label you arrogant. They'll tell themselves you're emotionally unavailable. But none of that is the truth. The truth is simpler. You're not feeding her ego. And while she may resent that in the moment, deep down, it makes her respect you. Because respect is not born from easy validation. Respect is born from resistance. Here's the irony. While she claims to hate men who don't chase, those are the men she remembers the longest. Think about it. The men who chase her, who beg, who worship, those men all blend together. One after another, they validate her, but they never stand out. They're predictable, replaceable, forgettable. But the one man who didn't chase, the one man who stood calm in his frame, who seemed more focused on his own mission than her approval, that's the man she remembers. That's the man who lingers in her mind months or even years later, because he broke the script. He denied her ego the instant gratification it craved, and in doing so, he became unforgettable. So brother, understand this. When you don't chase, you're not just flipping a dating dynamic. You're reshaping her entire psychological experience. You're forcing her to confront truths about herself she doesn't want to face. You're showing her that her beauty, while powerful, is not all powerful. You're teaching her, without ever saying a word, that real men cannot be controlled. And that lesson cuts deeper than any compliment, any pursuit, any validation ever could. Now, brother, let's step into the storm. You've seen her ego begin to unravel. You've watched her spiral when her old tricks don't work. But what happens next? She doesn't just accept defeat. No, when a woman feels control slipping, she often doubles down. She turns to manipulation. Not always malicious, not always conscious, but deeply instinctive. Because manipulation is about regaining power. And when you don't chase, she feels powerless. So in this part, I'm going to break down the exact game she plays to drag you back into orbit, and how to recognize and resist every single one of them. The first card she'll play is guilt. She'll say things like, "You've changed. You don't care like you used to. I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." These phrases aren't about truth. They're about control. She's hoping to spark that natural protector in you, that urge to fix, to reassure, to prove your loyalty. But here's the reality. The moment you defend yourself, the moment you rush in to reassure her, you've already lost. You've confirmed that her words can pull you off your frame. The antidote? Calm silence. No defending, no explaining, just presence. Because guilt only works if you absorb it. If you don't, it bounces right back to her. If guilt doesn't work, she'll escalate to jealousy. She'll casually mention a guy friend. She'll post herself with other men. She'll exaggerate how much attention she's getting. Why? Because she's trying to spark competition. She wants to see you panic, to see you fight for her spot in your life. But remember this, jealousy is a tool for the weak. It's the move of someone who doesn't feel secure in their power. When she uses jealousy against you, it's not proof that she's moving on. It's proof that she's desperate to test if you still care. Your job? Never compete. Never lower yourself into the arena she created. If another man is in the picture, let him have her. Because the moment you refuse to compete, you prove your value is higher than the game itself. This one is sneaky. Out of nowhere, she becomes warm again. She sends long messages. She tells you how much she misses you. She may even remind you of intimate moments you shared together. And here's where most men get caught. They think, she's finally realized my worth. She's finally come around, but be careful. Often this sweetness is just bait. She wants to pull you close again so she can confirm she still has power over you. And once she does, she'll pull away again. That's the cycle. The key here is consistency. If her warmth lasts, it may be genuine. But if it fades the moment you lean in, you know it was manipulation. This is where things get extreme. She'll swing from one emotional state to another in rapid fire. One day she's affectionate, the next she's distant, then she's angry, then she's apologetic. What she's doing is destabilizing you. By keeping you off balance, She's hoping you'll break your frame just to restore stability. She wants you to chase her just to stop the chaos. But here's the truth. The roller coaster only works if you get on the ride. If you stay grounded, calm, steady, her swings lose their effect. She ends up riding the chaos alone while you remain unshaken. Here's another manipulation, painting visions of the future. She'll start talking about things like, imagine if we traveled together. One day I could see us settling down. You're the kind of man I could actually marry. Now don't misunderstand, sometimes women mean this sincerely, but often in the context of lost control, it's a tactic. She's dangling the future like bait, hoping to reel you back into investment. The danger? If you start buying into her words without looking at her actions, you set yourself up for disappointment. Because fantasy is cheap, reality is expensive. Always judge her by consistency, not promises. And finally, when all else fails, she may break down. Tears, emotional confessions, maybe even apologies. Now listen closely. Sometimes this is real vulnerability, but other times it's the nuclear option, her last resort to get you to chase, because she knows most men can't resist a crying woman. Most men rush in to soothe, to fix, to rescue. But here's the key. If her tears are genuine, they'll be followed by consistent change. If they're manipulation, they'll fade the moment you give her what she wants. So don't just listen to her emotions. Watch her actions after. That's where the truth always lives. Now, brother, how do you protect yourself from all of this? The answer is simple. By anchoring yourself to your mission. Because when a man is anchored, when his purpose, his growth, his discipline come first, no game can move him. Guilt can't touch him. Jealousy can't sway him. Sweetness can't distract him. Tears can't control him. But when a man has no mission, no focus, no self-respect, that's when he falls. That's when he becomes reactive. That's when he becomes another pawn in her game. Here's the ultimate truth about manipulation. It only works on men who fear losing her. If you've built your life in such a way that she's the center, her games will destroy you. But if your mission is the center, if your frame is unshakable, her games lose all power. Because she can't manipulate a man who doesn't need her. She can't control a man who's already whole, and she can't break a man who refuses to chase. Up until now, we've been talking about her conditioning, her reactions, her manipulation games. But let's flip the lens, because at the end of the day, this isn't really about her, it's about you. The truth is, women only start chasing when they recognize they can't control you. And the only way to be truly uncontrollable is to build yourself into a man so grounded, so unshakable, that no game can pull you off your path. This part is about transformation, the shift from needy to needed, from reactive to centered, from chasing women to having women naturally chase you. Most men go wrong here. They make a woman the primary source of their value, her approval, her validation, her affection, her attention. And when she becomes the source of your value, you'll always chase, you'll always bend, you'll always panic when she pulls away because you've placed your worth in her hands. But high-value men don't do that. High-value men know their worth comes from what they build, not who they're with, from their discipline, their skills, their mission, their presence. When your value comes from within, she can't take it away. And when she can't take it away, she has no leverage. This is the core, the spine of masculinity, mission. When you live for your mission, whether that's your career, your craft, your business, your art, your legacy, you become magnetic. Because purpose is rare. Most men wander, most men drift. Most men fill the void with distractions, parties, hookups, endless validation seeking. But the man who is locked in on a mission, that man is untouchable. He doesn't have time to chase because he's too busy building. And paradoxically, that's what makes women chase him. Because purpose is more attractive than obsession. Direction is more attractive than desperation. When you make your mission the centerpiece of your life, women sense it. They feel the gravity, and they respect it, even if they test it. You want to know the difference between a boy and a man? It's emotional control. A boy reacts. He gets jealous when she mentions another guy. He panics when she takes too long to respond. He gets angry when she plays cold. But a man observes. He feels the emotion, but he doesn't become it. He sees the test, but he doesn't fall for it. He stays calm, steady, centered. And here's the paradox. The more you control yourself, the more control you have over the dynamic. Because she can't lead a man she can't shake. She can't dominate a man who won't react. Master your emotions and you master the game. Now let's talk about time and energy. Your time is your kingdom. Your energy is your wealth. And weak men give both away freely. They text all day. They wait by the phone. They drop everything just to meet her schedule. They pour their life into her world, hoping she'll notice. But kings don't operate like that. Kings are scarce. Their time is limited. Their energy is directed toward what matters most. And when a woman feels your scarcity, she values your presence more. Scarcity creates desire. Scarcity creates respect. When she knows you don't give your time to just anyone, she feels honored to have it. And that's when she starts chasing you, because she knows she's competing with your mission, not just other men. Another key trait, silence. Most men overcompensate. They brag. They overshare. They flood her with attention, compliments, and reassurance. But the man with true confidence doesn't need to say much. His presence speaks louder than words. His energy communicates more than compliments ever could. This is why indifference works, because silence forces her to feel the weight of your absence. And when she feels that silence, she realizes how much space you hold in her world without even trying. Silent confidence is magnetic, and it only comes when you stop needing to prove yourself. Here's the final piece. Detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cold, robotic, or heartless. Detachment means you can love deeply, but you never lose yourself in the process. You can give to her, enjoy her, connect with her, but you never sacrifice your mission, your frame, or your self-respect just to keep her. And here's the irony. Women chase most when they feel your love is optional. When they sense that you can walk away if necessary, even if you care. Because that kind of strength is rare. That kind of strength is irresistible. So brother, here's the formula. Redefine your value. Prioritize your mission. Master emotional control. Protect your time and energy. Build silent confidence. Practice detachment. Do this and you stop being the man who chases, and you become the man who is chased. Not because you're playing a game, but because you've evolved into someone who doesn't need to play. Because women don't chase games, they chase greatness. We've walked through the entire journey. We've talked about her conditioning, her reactions, her manipulation games. We've broken down your transformation, how to build the frame, the mission, the presence that makes chasing unnecessary. Now it's time to bring it all together, to show you how to live as the man who never chases, but always attracts. Because this isn't about a one-time tactic. It's not about tricks or strategies or short-term wins. This is about a lifestyle, a way of being, a standard you set for yourself every single day. Here's the first truth. Attraction is not the goal. Attraction is the byproduct. When you focus on chasing women, validation, attention, you lose yourself. But when you focus on your mission, your health, your growth, your presence, attraction happens naturally. Think about the sun. The sun doesn't chase planets. It doesn't run around trying to pull them into orbit. It simply radiates. It shines. It burns with power. And because of that, everything around it is drawn in. That's you. When you radiate purpose, discipline, and confidence, you don't need to chase. She's drawn in by your gravity. Most men play the short game. They want instant results, instant validation, instant gratification. That's why they chase. But high-value men play the long game. They're not interested in cheap attention or temporary flings. They're building empires. They're building legacies. They know women will always come and go, but their mission, their growth, their self-respect, that's eternal. And here's the irony. When you stop playing the short game, the long game wins. Because women crave stability. They crave strength. They crave the man who is unshakable over time, not the one who burns out chasing in the moment. Scarcity breeds desperation. Desperation breeds chasing. But abundance? Abundance is freedom. When you live in abundance, you don't panic if one woman pulls away. You don't beg, you don't crumble, because you know there are options. You know you're the prize. You know your worth isn't tied to her, and abundance isn't just about women, it's about your entire life. Abundance of opportunities, abundance of growth, abundance of vision. When your life is rich with meaning, you'll never feel empty enough to chase. Here's a hard truth. Attention fades, looks fade, attraction can shift. But respect, that's permanent. And the men who chase, they rarely get respect. At best, they get temporary attention. At worst, they get used, discarded, and forgotten. But the man who commands respect, that's the man women never forget. That's the man they regret losing, because respect is the foundation of desire. Without respect, attraction is shallow. With respect, attraction becomes obsession. So never settle for attention. Demand respect. And the only way to demand it is to live in such a way that you earn it. Through your discipline, your self-respect, your mission. At the root of chasing is fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. But once you remove that fear, once you truly embrace the fact that you don't need her, you become free. And freedom is the ultimate power, because freedom means you choose. You choose who to let into your life. You choose where to invest your time. You choose which battles are worth fighting. And here's the paradox. The man who doesn't fear losing her is the man she fears losing most. At the end of the day, brother, ask yourself this. What kind of man do I want to be remembered as? Do you want to be remembered as the man who chased validation his whole life? The man who bent for approval, who begged for love, who lived and died in pursuit of attention? Or do you want to be remembered as the man who stood tall, the man who built something bigger than himself, the man who women admired not because he chased them, but because he didn't need to? The man whose mission left a mark on the world? That's the legacy mindset. That's the life of a man who attracts. So here's the ultimate takeaway. Stop chasing. Not because it's a trick, not because it's a hack, but because it's beneath you. A man who knows his worth doesn't chase. A man on a mission doesn't chase. A man who lives with discipline, confidence, and respect, he doesn't chase. He attracts. He draws people, women, opportunities into his orbit. Not because he begs, but because he radiates strength. So from this moment forward, choose to be that man, the man who lives for his mission, the man who commands respect, the man who is free from fear. Because once you step into that frame, you'll never need to chase again. She'll chase you. The world will chase you. Opportunity will chase you. And you'll simply keep walking your path, steady, strong, unstoppable.